Love millennials. Great.
Millennial therapist is here.
Yeah. If only your husband's listening. Did you hear that?
Sara Kuburić je egzistencijalna psihoterapeutkinja, autorka knjige Na meni je i sarađivala je sa medijima poput USA Today, Marie Claire, Cosmopolitan i mnogim drugima. Dame i gospodo, večera sa nama doktorka Sara Kuburić.
But I was the perfect child because I tried to strive for perfection as a way to keep myself safe and to not be a burden to other people. I had this big realization that I was unhappy and my body was starting to communicate that you can't keep going on like this. Existentialism saved my life and it allowed me to kind of face myself and work through it, and it was incredibly excruciating. Existentialism is all about being an active participant and taking responsibility for your life. Whoever you are, as you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to it, that is who you are at this very moment. And if you don't like it, good news is you can change it. Every single thing you do shapes who you become. There is no neutral decision. There is no neutral activity. There's so much opportunity. You can do and be anything, and that actually paralyzes a lot of people more than incentivizes. And now we've been like, you don't need to do any of it. So why bother living? What is the point? I live my best, my most authentic life, and the people that resonate clap, and the people that don't clap, and I'm okay with that. I don't want my life to be molded by strangers.
Dobar dan i dobrodošli u novu Zdravu priču. Danas je sa nama Sara Kuburić, poznatija kao millennial therapist. Ona se bavi egzistencijalnom psihoterapijom koju ćemo detaljnije objasniti i u epizodi. Kao i svaki put sa nama su Waterdrop, Krux i US Polo i ja im se beskrajno zahvaljujem što su tu. Sada ću predstaviti Krux zato što imaju novi proizvod. Pored kolagena na koji ste navikli, stigla je ashwagandha, proizvod koji dolazi poreklom iz Indije i biljka koja utiče na kompletno naše raspoloženje tokom dana, ali više možete da pročitate na njihovoj Instagram stranici gdje imaju divnu zajednicu i odgovaraju na sve vaše nedoumice. Waterdrop, puno puta ste me pitali šta zapravo jeste, je li to voda ili šta je, u pitanju su kockice koje zapravo učine vodu ukusnijom, samim tim tere nas da pijemo više vode, a nema kalorija. Također taj deo drop je drop the plastic, zato su sa nama njihove čelične boce. US Polo, navikli ste, brand koji se ne služi trendovima, već stilom, sa kvalitetnim materijalima. Tu su sa nama i ovog puta i hvala im na tome. Više o informacijama svi možete naći u opisu ove epizode. Uživajte u Sari, meni je posebno prijala zato što smo razgovarali baš na temu terapije, na temu milenijalaca. Mislim da je ovo tema ne samo za milenijalce, nego i za starije i mlađe, da jedni drugi malo bolje razumemo. Da vidimo kada je pravo vreme za psihoterapiju, kada je vreme da promenimo psihoterapeuta. Šta tačno znači izgubio sam se i treba da pronađem sebe? Šta je pogrešno u rečenici idem da pronađem sebe? Kako izgleda život kada gradimo sebe umjesto da se vraćamo u prošlost i tražimo naše delove gde smo kao navodno bili srećni? Nadam se da će ova epizoda zapravo biti jedan moment koji će vas razvedriti i opustiti. Također, Saru možete da pronađete na linkovima u opisu epizode. Našim Patreonima se zahvalim na kraju, ali zapravo su bili početak svega ovoga. Hvala vam što ste i dalje tu. Te financije na koje se tamo oslanjamo je razlog zašto dalje ne šaramo i govorimo ne za razne neke druge prilike. Hvala vam mnogo što ste tu. Uživajte. Sara, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited for this conversation. And on the beginning, I always say, I'm sorry for my English. It's not perfect, but we will understand each other. It's not going to be grammatically perfect. I just want to say that
it's amazing.
Start.
It's better than my Serbian. So.
No, I'm not sure, actually. I'm really not sure you speak very well, but I also understand perfectly why you don't want to speak. I think you're actually Canadian girl, so it's your completely safe zone to talk and to give your authenticity on English. So I will just transfer my brain. So I need your confirmation about your biography. So you're actually born in Vlasenica in Bosna.
Da.
Then you went to Sremska Mitrovica. It's actually very close to Novi Sad. And then when you turned 9, you went to Vancouver So the biggest part of your growing up you actually remember from Canada. So later on you finished you have a bachelor degree in psychology, then master's in counseling psychology, and you went you were part of the training in existential analysis, and then your doctor in psychotherapy science.
Yes, wow,
I did it well.
That was so accurate, amazing. No one does that. Really.
Okay, but I want it to be exact. You know, sometimes we I don't know, we need to explain everything. You know, when the episode sometimes went out, I'm like, that wasn't actually completely true. That's why I wanted your...
You did a great job.
Confirmation. Thank you. So, you are now in Novi Sad. Which time you're in Novi Sad, actually? What is your, fourth time, fifth time after you move from Sremska Mitrovica?
I mean, after I moved, the first decade, I probably only came twice. But now, since 2016, I come every couple of years. So I've lost count. One of the last times I was here, I probably spent 2 months in Novi Sad. So it was kind of a base, which was fun. Yeah.
So how are you now in Novi Sad? Do you feel more comfortable? How was your coming here, after time?
I think it's getting nicer, to be honest. I think what happened for me leaving as a child, I became very Canadian, of course. And I also had some negative associations with Serbia. And, you know, as a child, I don't have that many memories. And then I have great memories with my friends and my family, but there's also some really difficult memories of the bombings. And so for a long time, I didn't want to come back. And I think anytime I would come back, the first thing that would come up for me would be kind of the trauma around the experiences, the discomfort. Also, being an immigrant is not a pleasant experience. I think people just assume, you left, you had a great time. It's there's also difficulty with immigrating. And so I think now, finally, probably last year or two, I'm starting to come here and enjoy it and feel more connected to the culture and want to explore it a lot more and practice my Serbian. And so it feels like a nice warm welcome and something that I'm trying to sink deeper into.
Nice. So there was a transformation in emotions, and I was really hoping for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
there
nice.
was.
I'm very glad for that. So now it's I think 7 months since your book is published.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
7 months, actually.
Almost.
I think,
Yeah.
From September, right? 2023.
Correct.
And you celebrated, I remember, 2 months of your book.
Yeah.
And those are a small, time to celebrate. And you should celebrate. And it was a bestseller here in Serbia, which is also so great fact. So how do you feel now after 7 months? What did the book do? I can assume what it did for people. I read everything that people are writing as their feedbacks. But what did book did to you?
So the book was very therapeutic for me. I wrote a book that I wish I had, and it just didn't exist. And I think I had to process a lot of my own beliefs and theories and my own personal experience, because there is quite a bit of my own personal experience in there. And so it kind of forced me to really sit in it, to be able to distill it into something that was digestible for the greater public. And then when the book came out, I think I was in shock. You know what I mean? First time you go to New York, you go to Barnes and Nobles, it's a huge deal. You see your book and people are freaking out, and I felt almost nothing because it was so much. It was really shocking. And I go to the airport and my book is there, and I'm just cool. And my sister is so excited. People are taking pictures and I'm just And it actually took me probably till last month to walk into, because I was just in New York, to see my book there, to see my book. We went to Vulcan and I saw it because she's like, do you want to see your baby? I was like, of course. And to really appreciate it, because it was such a big thing that I did, and it was very vulnerable, and it was, it took a long time to produce. Obviously, you write a book for about a year. And so it was really cool. I think now I get to appreciate it, now that the stress of it and the excitement and the shock of it is going away. I think it's very personal. It's very dear to me. And it kind of really solidifies the impact I want to have. Nice. And kind of my own journey. I have it in a book, which is really cool.
Yeah, I can just share a bit of my experience, which I think that all the people who are stručnjaci, experts, exactly. They would say, "Don't say that, Dolores," but I really think it's a psychotherapy in a book. Because, but that's not true. I know. I went. Of course, I went.
Thank you.
4 years to psychotherapy. I know that's not true. But what I wanted to say is that book really see you. Because it goes from your personal experience, and you also dive into some things to explain it, and then again you get back to your personal experience. So that's why I think that if we can relate to you in some, then I think like the book really see you. So it's like maybe also it was a good thing for some of my friends that I recommended the book. They said like,
thank you.
No. I mean, come on, thank you. And when I gave them, they said like, maybe I decided to go to psychotherapy, which is like, it's huge. I'm goosebumps, how do you say that? But it's really a big deal. Sometimes people are reacting on their way, and they're trying to find a way when it's their moment to go to therapy, which we will talk about later. But I think it's a really big deal. Sometimes if they go to like 20th page and said, I'm going to psychotherapy, it's already a big deal. And if they read everything, then it's another level of so amazing. And I really recommend that. That's why it's here in the middle of the table. So, before we go into those big subjects that are expertise for you, can you tell us something about your childhood that you remember from Balkans? You can go into something that is comfortable for you to share.
Sure. I mean, some of my favorite memories were probably from Novi Sad. So I have older brother and sister, and sometimes Saturday nights they would be stuck taking care of me, and they wanted to hang out with their friends. And when I was younger, I used to talk a lot. I still do, but it was worse. And they would just be like, it's the worst. We're trying to hang out. They're like 15-year-olds, having crushes, trying to go into the city and, I don't know, do things. And they would have to take me along. And they figured out that if they gave me popcorn, I would just shut up and eat it and be so happy. I would do anything they wanted. So I would just eat popcorn for like hours. And till this day, I love popcorn.
I should bring here.
And anytime I go to my brother's house, he's like, here. Like, it's like the thing for me, but that's like such a key memory. It's like a sunny, or not a sunny, I guess it's a warm evening in Novi Sad. Everyone's hanging out, eating ice cream, and I'm just like eating popcorn. That's a memory.
That's a very nice memory.
Yeah.
That's still Novi Sad.
That's still not great.
You can
popcorn
see that
later tonight.
Please. It's like totally typical Novi Sad picture at night.
I love it. Great. See, nothing's changed.
Nice. So the popcorn. Do you remember some other maybe meals or the smell or the...
I mean, burek. It's so exciting. I landed at 4 a.m. and I went to a pekara immediately, and I had food. So food was a really huge thing. And I think the people in general, like, it was so fun. It's so social. It's so communal. I think community is a really big thing here. And so when I think about like the positive memories, it's always hanging out, having really interesting conversations. Everyone's on the street, engaging with one another. Maybe that's a little different now, 30 years later. But it was... those are kind of the core memories. And, like I still know the lyrics to most songs from when I was a kid. Yeah, like if I go to like a kafana or something,
of course,
I will know all the lyrics. And it's shocking to everyone, including myself. So that stuff really sticks with you.
Nice. I want to ask you which song.
No, it's
but
okay.
Maybe better no. Yes, okay.
I'll sing to you later.
Okay. Yeah, but that's really very connected. I mean, that's my childhood also. It's typical. Once I talked to Italian writer Mario Liguori. He was here, and he said Italy is on the street and Serbia is in kafana.
That makes
so
sense,
everything happens there, and first Google in Serbia is in kafana.
Oh my God.
And all the connections and everything and informations, and people were getting divorced in kafana. So everything is happening there. So.
I need to go now as an adult.
So since you turned 24, you actually are working and traveling. And you say that the home is where your books are and the home is where you are. So where are your books and where are you now? How does your life looks like?
So that kind of became a joke because I traveled, I don't know, last month, 9 months of the year. So at that point, the question is really like, where's your home, right? Yeah. And I joke it's where my books are because they're my most prized possessions. And that's how I know that's where my home is, because it's where and, you know, in the book, I talk about being a minimalist, which means I don't have many things. So home is Australia. My entire immediate family lives there now. All my books are there now. They're unpacked on shelves. And that is the place where I go to just unwind and be me. It's like my safe space. I love that it's on an island because the rest of the world is like on fire. And when I'm there, I am just in my own world, really focusing on my family, my friends, and on recovering from the travels I did. And where I am right now is Serbia. But I think what I realized as, you know, an immigrant and then also someone who moved around a lot, the concept of home was a sensitive one. And, you know, when you're in Canada, you're too Serbian for Canadians. And then I come here and I'm too Canadian for the Serbians. And this happens all the time. It's this concept of displacement, like you don't actually belong to Serbia or Canada. Now, for me, it was a little easier because I went there super young, and most people see me as very Canadian, although I'm very direct, very blunt, which is very Serbian. And so, at least how I perceive it, yeah. And so that was always like a really big tension growing up of not knowing where you belong and not knowing where your home is. And I think during like my crisis in my 20s, I just realized the home wasn't a physical space. It was embodiment. And for me, being able to embody myself and be myself gave me a rooting and a sense of home regardless of where I was.
Nice. I like it.
Thank you.
I like it.
She's like, no, different answer.
No. Like, yeah, I'm sure that it was difficult, but it's a very nice definition of home. You know, maybe sometimes from here, we are usually very sticked to the one home for many years sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
It's good and bad. There are good and bad things about it, but it seems very... Yeah, it's the actually also the topic about freedom, which we will get there.
Love freedom.
I love it. yeah, we need to define it first. Freedom. Yeah. So the young Sara was in love with other kinds of science. For the difference of now, you're now existential therapist, but before I wrote here, you were Freud's girl.
I was Freud's girl, you're right.
CBT was your favorite, you were determinism as direction. So can you, I know what is determinism like a bit, but maybe for everyone, let's say, what is actually the biggest difference? And I love your personal experience in transformation, which I think also gives more trust to experts, like when they share their personal experience with that. So what is one and what is existential therapy?
Through my experience. Okay, so let's try to make this narrative. When I started studying psychology, I think part of the reason why I started studying it is because I wanted to understand myself. I think that's why a lot of psychologists go into psychology. I won't speak for everyone, but I also wasn't ready to face it. So I think, and this is not to say that everyone feels this way about these therapies or that that's why they gravitate towards them, just a disclaimer. For me, I liked psychodynamic, which is Freudian, and I liked CBT because it allowed me to fix myself or see problems without getting too close to myself. And I liked determinism because that took away some responsibility. It was saying like, there are things from your past, there's things in your subconscious, there's things that are driving you, so it's not fully on you, which my book, literally na meni. So the title is on me. It's on me. So I think at that time, the reason I gravitated towards it wasn't because they were great theories, which, you know, every theory has its pros and cons. I think it was because of my personal resistance to getting too close to my pain, and as a result, too close to the pain of my clients. And so when I first started, and I was really into neuroscience, my Bachelor of Psychology was in science. It wasn't an arts degree. And so I was like, I remember writing my first essay being like, yeah, Freud, yeah, CBT. And that lasted maybe, I don't know, 8 months, 6 months. And I remember practicing it because you're trained in pretty much every modality. You have to know how to do it. You have to know the theory behind it. And I just remember being like, it doesn't really resonate with me and how I talk and how I process. But at the same time, it really allowed me to avoid myself. And then what happened was I had this big breakdown, this huge unraveling that I talk about in my book. It's how my book starts, where I realized that the life I have is not my own. And the fact that I thought I was dying during a panic attack, I realized that I've never lived. And that my entire existence was actually a form of self-protection. It was more of a trauma response than anything else. I was the perfect child. I wasn't, but my mom's like, no. But I was the perfect child because, or I tried to strive for perfection as a way to keep myself safe and to not be a burden to other people. And so I had this big realization that I was unhappy and my body was starting to communicate that you can't keep going on like this. And in that time, I was already starting to study existential analysis slowly. Mm-hmm. Now, why I did that is because something within me, whenever my professors would say something existential, I'd be like, I felt it. It really resonated. It wasn't cognitively just clicking. It was like, wow, I see myself in the way they're describing things. And that scared me, but intrigued me.
Mm-hmm. At the same time.
And then when my unraveling happened, I also started attending therapy. And I also started to see suffering very differently. And the things and the theories that used to resonate no longer resonated, or the theories that I thought would be helpful weren't helpful for me. And this is how I slowly sank into existentialism, which also saved my life. And it allowed me, like the tools I learned as a therapist also allowed me to kind of face myself and work through it. And it was incredibly excruciating. And I was only a student at the time, but that was my transformation of like, as I changed as a person, so did the type of modality change. And I think it's so important as a therapist, it doesn't matter what you practice, that you practice from something that aligns and that is so personal to you. And so that was kind of my journey from determinism or more solution-focused therapies to existentialism, which is the opposite. And he says, you first exist and then you create your essence. Right. Which a lot of therapists are more like essentialism, which is different, which says you're given your essence and then you exist. And you either succeed or fail at grasping that essence.
Which is so bad news.
Yeah, it's such a bad, but that's how a lot of people, there's so many influencers that will have messaging that is rooted in essentialism, and they don't even know that, and you as a consumer don't know that, but it's like, find your authentic self, be that version that you were meant to be by who, by what? That means that it's created without your consent, without your participation. And so this is why existentialism was really powerful, because for me, responsibility saved my life. And that existentialism is all about being an active participant and taking responsibility for your life.
Wow. And I'm just researching those subjects about parenthood, and I'm talking with the experts, and the responsibility is like a huge subject.
Yes.
And we'll come back to that somehow. And also I read somewhere that you are expert as much as you're ready to change your direction. So are you maybe ready to change even existential someday? Are you following are you still, that's also a stupid question for you.
No, it's a great question.
No, really, of course you are. If you're in contact with yourself and you learned how to do that, probably you're ready to, one day say, I have a new idea.
I am so happy to do that. I'm happy to expand what it means. I'm ready to change it if it no longer aligns. I'm even very willing not to be a therapist one day if that is no longer something that I want to do, which to me right now sounds crazy because it's like my entire life. I did 15 years of education to be where I am right now. So it's like but I am so open to one day just being like, I want a floral shop, and open that if that's what I think gives meaning and impact that is needed in the world.
That's also very good explained in the book, like that creating yourself all over again, and how difficult it is to face it. It's so good news. Like such really, you can always just do things differently and basically woke up one day and like living the life you actually want. So if we want to go further, like I was afraid to, I was avoiding myself in the CBT. I can say CBT, but it's not about CBT anyway. It's really natural. Like I don't want to confront myself, and I don't want to see I don't have a capacity to see my clients then.
Yeah.
What is actually self? How would you define it? What is self, so that we can go into self-loss?
Yeah, I have a very unsexy definition of self. It's really not sexy.
Give it to me.
So the self is comprised of three things: freedom, choice, and responsibility. So the self is how you show up in the world. I think a lot of people are like, great, I'm going to go in a cave and I'm going to journal and I'm going to figure out who I am. To an extent, you can figure out your beliefs about who you are and who you maybe want to become, but you cannot separate your actions from who you are. So whoever you are, as you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to it, that is who you are at this very moment. And if you don't like it, good news is you can change it. But the way you show up in the world is really what sort of solidifies this sense of self. Heidegger talks about being in the world. There is no separation of world and self because they inform one another so closely. Every conversation you have, like we're having right now, we're going to be slightly different versions of ourselves.
Exactly.
And if you choose to have matcha or coffee, I had matcha earlier, that's going to change, I don't know, your perception of taste and community and who likes it and who doesn't. And so every single thing you do shapes who you become. There is no neutral decision. There is no neutral activity, which is really tedious and annoying for some people to hear. So for me, the self is the accumulation of responsibility, choice, and freedom, and that's how you exist in the world, and that's who you are.
It's easy, but yeah, I can understand why somebody has a problem with it because it's really different from what we used to do. And we usually say that wasn't me. I did something and it wasn't me. I wasn't myself then.
Which I love because I'm like, great, maybe that wasn't your authentic self. Still yourself. And I don't know if they do that in the Serbian translation, the little s and the big S, the capital S.
Yes.
Malo ja I veliko ja.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that's the importance. It's like so many of us live in the small s or the small ja, which is not your authentic self. It's not what's aligned with your morals and values and who you want to be, but it's still you. You can't avoid being you. So I love those moments where like, I've had those moments where I go, oh my gosh, like I don't recognize myself. That wasn't me. And it's like, that should be information for you. That is very valuable information.
Yeah. And that opens the subject about authenticity actually.
It sure does.
yeah. That was the terminology, like it was me, but I just want to see what I'm going to do with it right now. So can we say that it's like first you exist and then you create your essence?
Yes.
Right. That's also
That's
your,
exactly what
I read somewhere. So now it makes more sense after you said everything. So now I want to go deep into millennials.
You love millennials. Great.
Millennial therapist is here.
Yes.
I'm millennial. You're millennial. So I really want to know, who are we? Or from the perspective of therapist and from the perspective of ourselves. Because we are really facing huge changes. I really personally have feeling that we faced so many different style of everything.
Yeah.
Work, life, partnership, like parenting. So it's very burden, I can say, from the one point. Also, we have boomers as our parents, which is also a huge conflict.
Yes.
And at the same time, we have Gen Zs coming towards to us, like gonna change the world again,
I know.
So like we're really a generation that didn't grow up with the phones, and then now
luckily
they're like grafted into our hands.
Yes.
So what can you say from the both perspectives?
Okay, as a millennial, I think we have revolutionized how the world works. We said, okay, here is the script we've been given by our parents, how we should be married, what jobs we should have, how much money we should make, and we're just going to throw it away and we're going to just make up our own rules. We're going to work from Bali. We're going to have a million jobs. We're going to work for ourselves. We're going to do social media. We introduced so much opportunity to the world and we changed the name of the game.
Exactly.
And then we didn't know how to play it. Right? Because that's what happened. We were like, let's develop social media. Awesome. Let's lean into working on the internet. Awesome. Let's start not getting married. Let's start...
New parenting style.
New parenting style. Let's start doing all these things. And then we don't know how to do it, which is fair because no one's done it. And I think we are in that really tense spot where we wanted that freedom, and we have succeeded to push the limits. But we got also lost and trampled and disoriented in that process. So I have a lot of compassion as a millennial myself, and I also think we did something wonderful. Now, I think we just need to be careful of how we're navigating the unknown and supporting each other as we do it. As a psychotherapist...
All new field.
Yeah, let's talk about it. No, it's interesting because I see this in millennials and Gen Z, but the existential crisis and the identity crisis that we're seeing is absurd, as in it's so high. Now, I don't think there's ever a new problem. Like, our parents definitely had existential crises. We just used to call it, like, what is it, the middle age?
Yes, the middle age crisis.
Yeah, literally. So it's like... we've always had the same things. They just looked slightly different. But I think I'm seeing it on a global scale that people just do not know how to answer who am I and why am I here. And part of that is just the anxiety of freedom, which is something Kierkegaard talks about all the time. But there's so much opportunity. You can do and be anything. And that actually paralyzes a lot of people more than incentivizes. And so I think that that's an interesting thing that I'm seeing psychologically speaking. It's like people are not having good relationships, but that's because they don't know who they are. So who are they having a relationship with? They're struggling with boundaries because, again, boundaries an outline of who you are. You don't know who you are. They're trying a new parenting style, but they haven't figured out their own stuff. And so
completely chaos.
We're trying our best, but I do think there's... The crisis is at the forefront now, and that also comes with...
it means that it's true. Whatever you said in Serbia,
yeah.
we say, that's true.
I also think that comes with a level of privilege. Like, we're no longer in our parents' generation where it's like, you work on a farm, not that our parents did this, I don't know, 100 years ago, you work on a farm, you don't know where you're getting your next meal, so all your focus goes on pure survival. Now, for a lot of people, not all, we have the privilege of not living in that survival, and then these questions come, and we don't know how to deal with them.
Exactly. It's like coming up in your brain from the amygdala into the ratio. Yeah. Like, let's figure out this chaos and calm down. The tigers are not chasing us.
Exactly.
And now also we don't know what to do there in the ratio. Like, nobody told us.
What's the meaning now if it's not to have a kid, buy a home, have a 9-to-5 job?
What is it?
What is it? Right? And part of, I think, why maybe some generations didn't push back is because they didn't want to answer that question. And now we've been like, you don't need to do any of it. So why bother living? What is the point? And so that's something I deal with a lot as a therapist with millennials.
It's a tough jump.
Yeah, it is.
Because no one did it before. No, you
but
don't have
great.
Exactly. At the same time, it's amazing. I mean, we're probably going to talk about about this through the years from now. But, you know, like, you don't have a colleague that it's like 50 years old and that deal 20 years with millennials.
Exactly.
You're just doing it live, actually.
Exactly.
It's exciting. And at the same time, we need to be really focused on what is happening there and what else can we do. And maybe that also, I thought we we're going to talk later about it, but actually it comes very nice here. Like, when is the right time to go to therapy? Like, I think that millennials also focused the fact that we're going when everything is so wrong that we can't live more than we go to. And then from my experience, it's so hard. Then you have so much things to do. That therapy is a new for you, like the thing, talking to a stranger, for example. I'm going to share with you something very personal. I didn't want to go to therapy because I thought that if I tell them what I feel, they will take me away the kids.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Yeah.
It's huge because it really, now I'm really feeling sorry for myself at that point, because that's why I postpone it so long. Yeah. And now I see how crazy that is. I'm also like, please just come, stop even thinking about it. And I want to say it loud to all the people. Like, I really understand that afraid to confront yourself, and that all system is gonna be against you when they really see who you are. And then my therapist said, because she's like educated, and that's why she was playing with me to make things a bit less tense. And she said, like, and you didn't want to throw the kid from the balcony. And I said, no. Oh, okay, tell me when it comes to that. And I'm like, oh, I can't tell you when it comes to that. Like, it's crazy. So that was the point when she told me everything is okay. Just the moment you say that, it becomes so much easier. So what is the right time to go to therapy? And I would really like to face Gen Zs. I also hosted them here. Yeah. They're like going like preventive there.
Yeah, preventative. Yeah, totally.
Preventative, yeah. So, but no, what do you think? When is the right time?
Thank you so much for sharing your story, because I think that's a huge obstacle of there's so much shame and fear about therapy, and no one's talking about their experiences. So we're not, destigmatizing that process. And honestly, I'm never shocked in therapy sessions. My clients will be like, I have something to tell you. It's going to be so shocking. And I'm always like, come at me, bruh, because there's literally nothing in this world that shocks me anymore. I just
amazing. That's so good.
But it's because we're all humans. We all do the same things. Nothing you tell me is going to be mind blowing, and in the most positive way. Like, of course, we need to honor your unique experience, but we're all human, and I think there's something really beautiful when we realize that. So it depends. I understand that therapy, unfortunately, in every country, is a privilege.
Yeah, exactly.
It is not something people can afford. It's not something people have access to. And so when should you go? That's a hard thing to say. If you can't afford it, of course you're going to leave it till the last minute when you can't live without it. I so respect that. Ideally, I think it's a great way to expand, explore, grow, preventative measures. Amazing. Does everyone need therapy? No. I think there's ways you can do it without it. Do I think everyone could benefit from therapy? Yeah. And I'm completely biased, of course. And so for me, I think when you are suffering is often when I say, okay, have you considered going to therapy? Or if you find yourself in a cycle you can't break, if there is a feeling of being stuck or in pain that persists, that's when I say this is a really good time to go. Now, if you are about to have kids and you want to work on your stuff so that you don't pass it on, how fantastic. But I also understand it's not realistic. And so it really depends on people's financial situation and accessibility and what country they're in and what kind of therapy exists in that country and all that stuff. But I would say go to therapy whenever you can, because it's great. I
want to mention some of the places where people can go free for therapy, but I don't want to miss someone, so I will put it in the caption. How do you say? Description, exactly. I'm going to put some links because we have some free places that are financed by some projects or people in general, so that they can go and book a session and see what is going to happen. And also, I want to say that while I was in the publishing company, I was working one part in Harfa also, I learned that all the books are first going to public libraries. So you can always go there and pick up the book, and maybe it's going to be your first help. For me, it was that. And that's why I said your book, because it really goes from your personal experience, and the one thing they can see, that's not crazy. What I think, what I'm feeling, and what I'm going through, because you see Sara is going through also. Yeah. And that's why maybe also some book is going to be a good start. So I would say you're first now because we have your book. And then what would you say like for I know you have a very great relationship with Viktor Frankl or his books actually, and that your professor was good with him.
Yes, he was his student. They worked together for a really long time. Yeah. So it's very sweet. Yeah, books are a great place to start. Like Man's Search for Meaning was fantastic.
Man's Search for Meaning
by Viktor Frankl.
I didn't know about it.
Yeah, it's one of the most famous books by him, and the first half of the book he talks about...
Potraga za smislom, izvini.
I was like, of course, I think you would know that. It's like, but it's so great because I think that really snapped me out of determinism. Because I was like, if he still has free will and choice in a concentration camp, and if he's willing to fight for human freedom and to say we are always free after surviving something so inhumane, who am I to go and say I have no freedom? And that was really eye-opening for me. So reading was huge. I read a bunch of existentialists without knowing they were. Like Dostoevsky's my favorite author. You know, Hesse, love him. So good.
Herman.
Herman Hesse, yeah. And so for me, it was like I was getting sucked into existentialism without knowing it from a really young age. I started reading Dostoevsky at like 13.
I know, we all are. It's like also our school program, I think.
Oh, okay. So that's different for you guys. Definitely not 15, the American curriculum.
No. You were like crazy girl.
Yeah. They were like, what is wrong with her? Is she okay?
But it is a tough literature for that young age.
It is, but I felt so seen again.
Oh, okay.
I was like, wow, I think that way too. Like, nothing scared me about it. I was like, these are the questions I have. And I loved that. So I gravitated towards it naturally. But yeah, I think there's so many programs online. There's social media. There is journaling things that you can do. There's a lot out there that you could do before even starting therapy. And the one thing I will say about therapy is finding the right therapist is key. It doesn't mean they're a bad therapist. They can just be bad for you. And so think about it as like buying jeans, which is a nightmare for everybody. It's like you're trying it on and you're being picky, and that's how you should be with therapists as well, because there's really nothing, I would say, worse than a poor therapeutic match, and that can sometimes do more harm than good. So just be very picky because you deserve someone who will understand you and think like you and guide you in a way that's appropriate.
How do you know that?
I think how you feel during and after sessions is really incredibly important.
But we don't feel always good.
No, you don't. I actually tell my clients you're going to feel worse before you feel better. And I'm totally comfortable with my client being unhappy at the end of the session. Not with me, but like with whatever they figured out.
It's not easy.
But I think it's more of a not immediate, like 1 hour. It's like, okay, we worked together for a couple months. Is something moving? Is something shifting? Not like, am I happy? Are all my problems solved? Is it moving? Is it shifting? Am I asking myself the tough questions? Are they holding up a mirror? Do I feel safe? Do I feel understood? This is really big. So if you don't feel safe or understood,
go.
And then if you're not reaching your goals, and this is up to a therapist to make sure you have very realistic goals, but if you're not reaching your goals, that's something even a therapist should go, hey, we've been together for 6 months. I don't see that you're reaching your goals. Is there something I can do differently? Or maybe you should go to someone else. This is what a therapist should be doing.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. And I think we should write goals with the therapist. 100%. Because sometimes we are writing our own goals.
Realistic goals.
And somebody needs to see that.
Someone needs to see that.
With the diploma.
And they need to tell you if they can do it. So if you go to a therapist and they say they work with every problem and that they can help you with everything, be cautious. Therapists should have a specialization. And yes, we're all trained in almost everything. But I really respect people that go, hey, this is not my thing. For me, I don't work with addiction.
Oh, I wanted to say, please give me the example.
So like sex addiction, fine. Substance addiction, no. And I know that. So when someone comes to me and they go, this is what I'm working with, I go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. This is not something that I specialize in. It's not something that, for me personally, it's not something I enjoy working with, right? And everyone has something they like to work with and don't. I like trauma. So it's, and sometimes they come hand in hand. Yeah, exactly.
The field is yours.
The field is mine. But yeah, I think it's really good to know, like, hey, as a therapist, what do I like? What do I not like? Who am I helpful to? Who am I not helpful to? What triggers me? What doesn't trigger me? And so I know my preferences and triggers around certain things. And so I just decided, hey, addiction is not something I'm going to work with. And I think it's important to say that and not pretend that you're an expert in absolutely everything. Could I work with addiction? Absolutely. Do I have the tools? Yeah. Do I think I should? No. And so for now, that's my boundary. That's my limitation. That's just one example. And I really admire experts who specialize. So if someone's like, I can help you with every problem and I don't have any specialization and I don't have any preference and I don't... That's often a sign that they're over-promising, and I always like to push back a little bit.
Nice. I need that. We need that lesson here on Balkans very much.
Mm-hmm. That's what I hear.
Yeah, it's a very good advice, actually, from you. So we can search or research who are specialized for something, because it will make a list a lot shorter. Yeah. So, and it was so useful. Thank you for this.
Yeah, of course.
Really, really. This is a huge subject and never ends. Do you have a psychotherapist now?
Do I go to a psychotherapist? Yeah. No, I don't go to a psychotherapist right now.
Okay, not right now, but like...
I have.
From time to time.
I haven't since...
the baby came.
The baby. Since the baby came, no. I think mid-20s is when I stopped. Mm-hmm. And something I take very seriously is... doing the work I preach. Mm-hmm. So doing everything I'm telling my clients to do, if I can't do it myself, I need to chill out. And I think that's something, it keeps me very responsible. It doesn't mean that I don't fail. It doesn't mean I do everything perfectly. But I think that sense of responsibility I have towards becoming the person that I speak of keeps me really sharp. And makes me do a lot of things on a daily basis that hopefully...
in control.
Yeah, that help me, live out this responsibility and freedom and becoming my authentic self. And so I haven't felt the need. That might change. I also have a great support system, and I journal, and I have other therapists I talk to. So I feel really supported. I'm in a really good place in my life right now. But would I go back? In a heartbeat. Like if
it's necessary.
If it's necessary on speed dial, I will text her and be like, we're starting immediately. And I think that was really hard for me at the start when I started therapy, because I was already seeing clients as an intern, and I felt so embarrassed because I was like, I don't have my stuff together. How dare I talk to someone else? Which is absurd, because a therapist can't be perfect, but I felt so much shame. And that was really hard for me, because I was like helping people with their anxiety and I was having panic attacks. Right? And so I had to really reconcile with that, but I also paused clients and worked on myself. I think as a therapist, we have the responsibility to work on ourselves. Exactly. And I take that super seriously.
Yeah, and I'm also going to share some of my experience. I went to therapy like 3 years in a row. I was really messed up, so I need to fix things. And when I say fix, you never fix them. You just go and start that process of understanding what is happening to you. So after that, you never go away from therapy. Like, you just change the way you're approaching it. So maybe it's not always the therapist. You really build your own tools. So I can make a conversation with you or with my friend and make a therapy from it. Like, I can really be present and understand, oh, here is my reaction. I'll stop it now.
You can learn so much. Yeah,
exactly. From the listening. And that's why I started the podcast. I want to listen to so many stories and people. And I'm also like, you become like a person who is affording yourself small therapy sessions during the day. And then from time to time, I call my therapist and I said, let's make a check. Like, let's go there and just see, am I crazy or I'm really good?
Yeah. So, thin line.
yeah. And I love to go from time to time and she said, you're good, girl. Go there. Just call me again, but you're good. Like, you're handling it. The life is still crazy sometimes and hurts and brings up some turbulences, but also you're good. So I think it's also a good thing to mention. It's not a lifetime thing. It shouldn't be like, but be focused on some period. It's so good, because later on it's going to be much easier to go through life. And I also have some conversation that need to do with some people that are from the past that are still in the present. But I'm now ready to talk about that. And I don't have some crazy reactions in my body. I handled it very well. I took responsibility for those things, and then you can have a conversation with whoever you want. So
we love that.
Yeah. Sorry for this.
No, this
too
is
much
so
talking,
good. No,
but sometimes
so good.
Also people say like in podcasts you should share also your part because it's a dialogue. Yes,
it's a dialogue, exactly.
Yeah. Same times I'm criticize myself, but I also say it's okay, Dolores.
I think what you're sharing is very meaningful. So please continue.
Thank you. I'm just gonna see where we are now. Okay. What is wrong with the sentence "I'm going to find myself"?
Yeah, I don't know.
We also touched that subject, but what is wrong with it?
What is wrong with
I really want to find myself.
It's a preference thing. Again, I think it means that the self is created outside of your participation. And I also think what it represents is that the self is static, meaning that the way it looks now is the way it's always going to look.
And you just pick it up.
And I say it's like going to a closet, putting on a sweater, and then dying in it. Like that's how we're like, great, I found myself and now I'm just going to die that way. And I really hope that in 10 years from now, you're different. Just like I'm so glad that I'm different than when I was 20. And I think that's why I don't like that phrasing, because a lot of assumptions that come with it. It's like outside of your control a little bit. It's also destined for you. It's also static. And so I like create yourself, because it's proactive, it's fluid, and it's perpetual. It's forever. And I think...
Never-ending game.
Never-ending. And something I talk about is like the self, being yourself is a lifestyle. That's what it is. It's a lifestyle. It's not something that you're going to go to therapy for, figure out. Yeah, you will. And then if you just hold on to it and grasp onto it and don't change, you're going to need therapy in about 5 years, because you're going to change and you're going to feel lost. And you're going to be confused why things are not aligning.
Again.
And it's a mess again. So I think for me, this is why I don't like the phrase, because there's so much implicit messaging that we're not aware of that comes with it. And so many people use it without maybe even understanding the messaging they're giving. So I always correct people and I go, we're not going to find you. we're going to create you. Also, you are you. So if I believe that in this moment, I don't need to find anything. You're right there. I see exactly how you're showing up. And so this is why I resist it.
And it's very nice. You said, like, it's not in the past.
It's not.
And when I think of my crisis, I usually think that it's going to be fixed if I go back to myself.
Oh, totally. It's like, if only I can go back to this version. Yeah. If only your husband's listening. Did you hear that? I love it. No, but it's true. It's like,
it's a big moment.
It's a big moment. It's only if I didn't have kids, only if I didn't marry this person, only if I can be the free version of myself when I was a kid or in college. And I think there has to be grieving of your past self. So when we talk about authenticity, we always think about it as a really positive thing, which it is. And it comes with loss, it comes with grief, it comes with isolation, it comes with resistance. It's really hard. And we can't find ourselves in the past because that version of you doesn't exist any longer. You can never, let's say you're not going to, you divorce your husband. We're using this now example. She's not going to.
Take it.
Yeah. You still wouldn't be the same person before you married your husband.
It's not gonna fix that.
It really doesn't fix anything. But that's how we think, and that's why I used that as a silly example, because it doesn't actually work that way. We can't undo time. We can't undo this fluid process. We can't, you can't step in the same place in a stream. That's a terrible English expression that I don't know how you translate, so it doesn't matter. But
you can't step into the same water.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it, yeah.
That's a very good.
And so...
Also learned that from you. I don't want to take it like...
No, that's great. And so that's the thing where I think we do that because we don't want to take responsibility. I think it's one way we avoid the freedom we currently have. We avoid the choices. We avoid the responsibility. And we get so hyper-focused on going back to the way things were. And that's just impossible. And the reality is probably you weren't even that happy back then. You're just like romanticizing. And like when you were single, you were like,
to do that.
Yeah. But it's like when you were single, you were like, I just want to be married. And now that you're married, you're like, only if I was single. So it's like, because there's grief to both realities. And we can't avoid that.
Yeah. But also I can say a bit about our culture here.
Yes,
it
please.
also helps you to think that you should be one thing forever.
Yep.
If you want to be a pilot, you need to realize that when you're age 15, and then all your relatives, and from the best reasons for that, but best intentions, they're gonna force you just to be that and to be that forever. And I see a lot of even when people are getting divorced, really people think that that's a failure. And I'm like, I really sometimes think it's just our interpretation. What does that mean? What do you mean a failure? Maybe it's really the best thing that can happen.
Oh, it's the best thing that's happened to me.
I would really I have some examples.
Sorry.
Yeah, I understand. I know so good examples that said it was the best 5 years of my life. And I made it to get out before it starts to be messy. So I wouldn't say that it's a failure. I wouldn't say it's a failed marriage. I had a wonderful time with that girl. For example, my friend says that. And like in just one moment, we changed the directions of our lives. And then we go to that court and everyone said like, are you sure you want a divorce? Because you're so good together. And they said, no, it's just a decision in the right moment that we don't hate each other. And until now, they have a very good relationship. Like I'm happy for you and he's happy for her. It's a really nice example. And it's really confronting our culture who said like, that couldn't be the truth. Like they must hate each other. It must be tough. You need to force it until the end.
Yeah. And so what I know about the Balkan and Serbian culture, which, I do, all my entire family is Serbian. They still live here. So I just want to explain that.
And you're coming more often and
Exactly. But it's like we had so many changes and instability. And I think what we're seeking is stability and illusion of control. And to me, that's why sometimes certain cultures, it's like you can't fail, you can't shift. You need to see to get, because that's stable. And we think stable and familiar is safe. That's what your brain does. It goes, I recognize this is safe.
I have to survive.
I have to survive. And this is the safe thing to do. And so I think there's a lot of cultural narratives, as you said, that lead us into living inauthentic lives. And we're not open to changing things and maybe here because things are a little less stable economically or politically or whatever it is. I have no idea.
But stability is illusion.
But stability, and so yes. And so we try to force our lives into something to have this illusion of stability. And I think that's where it comes from. It comes from a lot of fear. And I think it comes from really good intentions from people. They want you to be stable and safe.
They want the best for you.
They want the best for you. And sometimes the best for you means allowing you to change and evolve and try different things. And I know that that's hard even for parents to watch their kids do that because it is scary.
It is. Do you think about being a parent sometimes?
No.
I love your answers. I love your authenticity. Yeah. And also it's a good answer because I know now when you know what you do, like tomorrow is tomorrow, now is now, like, but it's such a good answer. Like
I've been asked this question.
Thank you for this. I would edit it out if it's uncomfortable for you.
It's not a secret. I think women need to just start talking about it more. I think we assume every woman wants to be a mother. We assume that's going to give them a sense of meaning.
Culture is assuming that it's your
duty. It's your duty. That's what will make you happy, or that's what being a woman is.
Of course.
And I am a very big proponent for stepping up and being like, I have never wanted children. I can't say I never will because my future self might, but I can tell you probably with pretty 99.9% certainty that I will not be a mother, and I do not want to be a mother, and that is not something that I find fulfilling or interesting or that it aligns with me. And I will, some people really dislike that answer, but I think it's important to say it so other women that feel like me can also say it.
How you deal with the people around you?
Oh, I don't care. I go, you know what? If I gave birth to this child, I'd have to take responsibility for it. And you're going to be doing whatever the heck you're doing.
Well, they're going to clap for you.
Oh, yay. Yeah, no, I mean,
sorry for going so
I love it.
Funny,
no,
but
I love it.
It is true. That's what we think, that it's enough. They're clapping, but the responsibility is on you.
At some point, I realized that the clap has to come from within and that I can't live my life for other people. That's what I used to do. I got the claps and I was miserable. And now I live my best, my most authentic life, and the people that resonate clap, and the people that don't clap, and I'm okay with that. I don't want my life to be molded by strangers, molded by people who don't have my best interests or people who don't think like me. And if I took everyone's opinion into account, it would. And I just don't want to live my life that way. So it doesn't bother me anymore. It used to. I'm getting old. I'm getting indifferent. I'm like, I don't care. I'm very happy with my life, and I don't want to change it.
Nice.
Yes.
Whatever takes you to that point, it was worth it.
Exactly.
So it's very nice. You know, I'm a mother, and I'm really comfortable talking to you about it. And it's so good for me. Do you sometimes face the mothers that are coming and saying, I regret being a mother?
All the time. All the time.
How do you deal with them?
You know, and it's more friends, to be honest, and clients.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have so many mothers who didn't understand what that entailed, and who very much regret, or what happens oftentimes, I think, is they get lost, their identity gets lost in motherhood, and that's why they don't like it. They all love their children, but I don't think they like the role of being a mother. And so just shifting that perspective, shifting the expectations. I think a lot of them said to me, wow, Sara, you don't have children. I'm so jealous. Or like, Sara, please don't have kids unless you're 100% sure. Because they're like, it is so hard. And like, some people will be really honest. They're like, you ruined my life. And that's obviously people who are very close to me, and I appreciate that feedback instead of everyone lying to me and being like, it's so great, why don't you do it? As she's like crying, no. And I think I really respect people in my life that will be like, this was not the right call. I did it for all the wrong reasons. And
also there's a good end.
Also, I love my kids and I can't imagine my life without them.
That's authenticity.
That's authenticity. I'm like, that's so good. And I don't want it.
Yeah, that's also one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is just to help people have a better experience with the parenting, because also science can help. And it is truly hard, but also knowing some of these books and things and how does the kid's brain develop, it just becomes so easier. At the moment, it helps you because you can't go back. And then also, we need a place just for that, just so somebody can make this parenthood better news.
And I want to just say, I respect parents. Like, I think one of the hardest things you can ever do is be a parent. So my positioning is not from like, I don't think that's important. It's like, I think being a parent is one of the hardest things you will ever do. Also, as a scientist and as a psychotherapist, I understand how much you can screw up your child. Yeah. Like, I understand how people, like how nuanced, how like difficult it is. And so I have all the respect in the world, but I also understand that that's not my calling in life.
I would just call audience and you I love to connect some of the episodes. Yeah. I made this conversation with Daniel Mate. It was his last question. So I want to say to everyone, just go there and listen to his answer, because you're so... It's the best answers I've ever had in this conversation. So thank you for this. And let's say, what did I wanted to talk about more with you? Oh, we're good. Okay, we're good, actually. I think I covered everything that I wanted, like the most important things, that I don't want to miss that. I would say that at the end, I learned from you that existential therapy or existentialism is actually a tennis match between necessity and possibility. I love that sentence, your sentence, and just to... put those things on the paper. Necessity is your parenthood now. Sorry.
Yes, it is.
But also, it's a possibility, and you can make things better and easier and nicer. And also, I would like everyone here from the Balkans. I know you're working in Australia, America, wherever, Canada, probably, or everywhere around the world. But I think you can make a huge impact here in Balkan.
Thank you.
And you can also talk to one generation that is lost here and that don't have so much age-like therapists. And those that millennial therapists, your Instagram profile is like a must for everyone. And maybe sometimes I'm dreaming like I would just take sometimes couple of your posts I'm going to share on story and I can translate underneath for Serbian, for maybe some of the people, because your posts about hard truth, those are my best.
Oh, thank you.
It's like
people don't always like them.
But sometimes people are saying things, but they're not warning people. It's going to be hard, but it's truth. But that moment that you say it's going to be hard, you can hear better.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just like a bullet. And when you say hard truth,
you're prepared.
You're prepared.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad you like them. And of course, translate them anytime you want.
Yeah.
My Instagram is a community and it's for anyone that wants to learn and work on themselves, and I'm honored to have it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being there. We can find you on Instagram. We can find you in the book everywhere around the world. Where can we find you more? Your therapist sessions are booked.
Yes.
But that's why you have Instagram, so you can still make impact other than your... Also, I'm very sorry that we are gonna... sorry, my English is terrible. Mogu sad na srpskom?
Može.
And you can talk on English. Žao mi je što ovo emitujemo posle tvog predavanja u Madlenijanumu, ali i to je divan potez i nadam se da ćeš to nastaviti u kojim god zemljama se nalaziš, jer stvarno je divno vidjeti te uživo i svaki put nekako je to još jedna dimenzija tebe, jedna vrsta uticaja i taj moment da se ljudi stvarno izuluju par sati, slušaju te teme, stvarno je dragoceno, tako da se nadam da ćeš i te formate nekako možda nastaviti. Gde god.
Thank you. I do it all the time. Everywhere, but this is my first time. Well, second time technically. Last time I did a little talk as well.
Yes, at the coffee place. Yeah.
I'm trying to do it more in Serbia. Definitely the first time doing anything like that here. And it's very exciting. And I will have an exciting Serbia-related project that I can't talk about yet.
Nice.
But you will be seeing me around a lot more.
Thank you. We are ready for you. We will just more and more talk about you here. Thank you so much for being my guest. Imamo tu misiju da promenimo sliku medija u Srbiji u smislu da komercijalni sponzori treba da plaćaju, a da mi budemo slobodni, da radimo šta god hoćemo. Tako da moji sponzori su danas... Spremili su ti poklone. Imaš mesec dana goveđeg kolagena. To je kompanija i sa svima smo jako teško smo ih našli. Onda kad smo ih našli morali su biti pravi. To je 100% goveđi kolagen, da nam bude lepa koža, kosa, nokti. Ali stvarno je potpuno prirodan, da. I nadam se ćeš uživati. I Waterdrop sa kojima si sad imala susret. We need to drink more water and drop the plastic. Tako da koristimo njihove čelične boce na to go. I hvala US Polu što me oblači svaki put, odnosno brine da mi budemo obučeni u stilu, a ne u trendu. Da batalimo trendove i gomilu kolekcija tokom godine. Hvala ti još jednom što si bila moja gošća.
Ćao.
Ćao. Ukoliko vam se naš sadržaj dopada, i dalje 70% vas se nije pretplatilo na naš kanal. To je možda zato što ne znate koliko će to značiti da ovaj kanal radi dalje, da funkcioniše u određenom algoritmu, zato zapratite, odnosno kliknite dugme subscribe. Radujemo se vašim komentarima.